looking?
Oh, it looks in great shape. I just got here about 2 hours ago, and the golf course looks wonderful, and it looked like we had pretty nice weather this week, which is good.
All right, Billy.
80 degrees here, so
that's looking good over at Irving, Texas. But we're now live. Welcome to the Golf Podcast Live. I'm your host, Raphael Calamat, alongside, as usual, Michael Bleakley in Vancouver at ECS Agencies. You know, we got a very special guest. I'm at home, not at the studio today, but I am in Oakville, Canada. We've got an amazing guest. His name is Billy Mayfair. He's an American professional golfer, former Sun Devil at Arizona State, currently on the PGA Champions Tour. 5 PGA Tour wins, most famously beating Tiger Woods in that playoff. You know, Tiger's got that record of 11-1. And who's that one? That's Billy Mayfair.
Yeah.
Billy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, guys. It's great to be here. It's hard to believe it's been 25 years since Tiger and I had that playoff, and my wife and I were talking about it today, and I still never get tired of talking about it. That's for sure. I enjoy it every time someone brings it up.
Fantastic. We'd love to hear more about it, because that it's got to. You're living rent free in Tiger's head, I would assume. You know, but just having knocking him off on that one playoff, that's amazing.
Well, I know it was special to him because I know he's always wanted to win in LA and being right there because he grew up. And in that particular year that I won, we played Valencia Country Club, which is one of the courses that he grew up on. So yeah. I know that he wanted to win there bad. And again, at the time, you know, Tiger still wasn't Tiger at the time. And I remember winning on Sunday, and it felt like just a normal win. You want to win every week and you beat whoever you can beat. And in a playoff, it's always fun to win a playoff. But it wasn't until the next week, about on Tuesday morning, when I woke up in my hotel room at Doral, and I came out my room and there was 20 reporters in front of my door, my hotel room. That's when I started feeling that maybe this is a little bit different for some reason. So, but it was a thrill.
It is hard to believe, Billy, that I was 25 years ago. We're talking about 1998. Tiger was just a young cub back then, you know, 21, 22 years old, but just ripping it up on tour since 1996. And, you know, it's really great to talk about that story. For those of you who don't know, that was formerly the Nissan Open, currently the Genesis. And now Tiger's the host of that event.
Yeah. And you think it was 25 years when I beat him in the playoff, and he went back this year and played wonderful, made the cut, and was right there in contention for a while. So I don't know which one is more amazing, me beating him in the playoff or him coming back 25 years later, but they're both good stories.
They are.
Absolutely.
And you also took down Stephen Ames, John Daly, Payne Stewart, like a pretty packed leaderboard as well, right? So it's a great story.
Well, I think that year was special because, like I said, it was at Valencia. We didn't play Riviera because they had the PGA Championship that year. So I think a lot of guys who normally would skip the last tournament on the West Coast decided to play it that year because it was a new golf course, and I think that was why it had such a good field.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Mike and I have had the privilege to talk to a bunch of you guys on tour on the PGA Tour Champions. We've talked to Cooper, Petrovic, Labritz, and Cook, and the list goes on. You know, how is it out there? You know, you're currently over in Irving, Texas, at the Las Colinas Country Club, at the Invited Celebrity Classic. This is a really special event. You've got a lot of famous, you know, ball players out there as well.
Yeah, it's really a neat event. It's nice to see everybody again. And I just registered about 2 hours ago, and Tony Romo and a couple other guys from the Cowboys said, "Hey, come on, let's go play." And so I got to do an interview real quick, but I'll catch you on number 6 or something like that. So this week's a little bit different. I mean, obviously we want to grind and play real well, but you know, I'm playing tomorrow with Dan Whitney, who's Larry the Cable Guy. And, you know, just getting to play with guys like that. I mean, you take the time, you break your routine and go out and play with them and have a good time. And then in the tournament, it's a lot of fun to play with them.
Yeah. Do you find that's going to relax you? You know, you might perform better, you know, being maybe less pressure than a typical event?
Well, I think so. I think you have a lot more fun. I mean, last year when we played here, I mean, we got to play with some great celebrities. I got to play with Pudge Rodriguez, who was obviously a huge fan here in the Texas area because he played for the Rangers. And it's just, I think the most fun is to go out there and play with these guys and to tell stories to them. And they tell me stories about what they did. And it's a different sport, but it's still pressure. And we all know that we're a very elite group out here, and we're it's a lot of fun to see everybody. And I think what the blessing for us is that all these athletes want to play golf. Yeah. You know, all these football players and baseball players, they want to come back and play golf. And since I play golf, it's a great coincidence.
Yeah.
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 I love to circle back a little bit to the beginning of your career. I don't know how many people know that back in 1986 and 87, you played some spectacular golf, the 1986 U.S. Public Links champion.
Yep.
Back in 1987, you were on the Walker Cup winning team.
Yes.
Tell us about how your golf career started back then, when things started taking off and you knew that you had a chance to play professional golf.
Well, I played a lot of junior tournaments in Arizona growing up there, and got to play a lot. And it really wasn't. And I won a lot of high school tournaments and all that. But when I got to college and played very well in college, and then got to play in the public links and won that, and then win the U.S. Amateur, you start thinking about, maybe you can do this as a profession. And it's a little bit different now than it was back then. I mean, now someone would offer you $40 million and off you be. And I think I signed a deal with a clothing company for $5,000 after winning all that. So, I think in the long run that might help me, because it kept me eager, it kept me motivated and all that good stuff. But when I got to college and just went through college, I thought maybe I could do this as a career.
Amazing.
That's amazing. That is really amazing. Yeah, your highest ranking, I think, was 25th on the official world golf rankings back in 1996. And you've played so many majors. Did you get a chance to watch the Masters this time around? And what did you think about it?
Well, we had two Sun Devils in contention.
Right.
Phil
Mickelson.
Yeah, we don't know how much Phil was in contention, but you go back to a place that he loves like that so much. But having John Rahm right there, and we all knew John was going to win another major soon, but to win the Masters, but to have two Sun Devils finish, first and second, was really, really a lot of fun to watch and great for the program.
Yeah. How unexpected was Phil making a run like that? Like it was pretty amazing to watch somebody at his age and really, had Rahm slipped a little bit, Phil could have been right in there. It could have been a really interesting finish, but
I think that'd be quite the playoff.
that would have been a heck of a playoff. They could have exchanged yardage book because they both have the same yardage book covers with the Sun Devil on it. But yeah. I think what people don't talk about is I think that what helped Phil so much was that he wanted to play Jordan Spieth. I think the Netflix series had kind of upset him a little bit. I think he misses the PGA Tour because of the LIV Tour, and I think this was his chance. And if you remember right, Jordan Spieth's best friend is Justin Thomas, and Justin Thomas's caddy is Bones.
That's right.
So I don't think he wanted Spieth to beat him, and I think Jordan wanted to go back and didn't want to tell Justin Thomas and Bones that he lost to Phil. So I think they pushed each other. I think they helped each other. And like I said, either they were going to both shoot 65 or they were both going to shoot 85. And this time they shot 65.
Yeah, it was a great battle. And really the overall leaderboard with, the controversy of LIV and all these players showing up, and you have a good showing on the leaderboard from LIV with Koepka, Patrick Reed, and Phil, all probably surprising everybody. And I think Patrick, all three of those players for that matter, kind of thrive in controversy, and they're able to elevate their games and be very relevant in the tournament. So,
well, I agree. And I think that when it got to be Sunday, it still came down to golf. And no matter if you're on this tour or that tour, or how many you've played or how many tournaments you haven't played, it still comes down to playing golf and making birdies, getting that competitive juices going. And all these guys have done it for so long. Once they got into doing it again, they were back on autopilot and enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
Billy, what do you remember of your 1991 Masters? I mean, you finished T12, which was your best finish yet at that event. You've played really well at a lot of championship events, the Open T3 in 2001. I notably remember that because that was a wild event, the US Open T5 in 2002. and the PGA Championship T5 in 1990, which is there's a big time gap right there between those results. But the Masters T12 1991. What do you remember about that Sunday?
Well, I knew that I knew I needed to finish the top 15 in order to get invited back the next year. Mm-hmm. And I remember I hit a real good shot on 16. I missed my birdie putt on 15 and got to 16 tee box, and the pin was back left pin, and aimed it right at the left edge of the towers. That's the target. And I hit it right at it. Boy, I just said, if it just has the right distance, and it hit the slope perfectly, and you kind of hear this roar going up, and the ball didn't make it all the way down to the hole, but it was about that far short of the hole and all that. And, I'm walking up there and waving and all this stuff. And all of a sudden I had to kind of grab myself. I said, Billy, you got a 2-footer straight downhill right now. If you miss this is going in the lake. So I had to get the focus back right away. And I made the short putt for birdie and then parred the last 2 holes. And I guess the biggest thrill was I know I got to come back next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
88 was your first Masters. So what was it like, getting the invite in the mail months before and then showing up in Magnolia Lane? Like how ecstatic were you?
It still gives me goosebumps right now. I went down early with Buddy Alexander, who was the former amateur champion. We played a couple practice rounds together. But the fun thing about that was that I played the first day with Larry Mize. Yeah. Who plays out here on the Champions Tour with us now. And because he was a defending champion, and both of us were so nervous on the first tee. I think he hit it dead right, and I hit it dead left. And we saw each other finally when we got to the green. So, but the funnest thing for me that first year was, at the time, they repaired you after each round. You didn't have 2-day have 2-day tee times. And back then you didn't get on the computer to find out your tee time. You had to actually call Augusta National and use the phone and all that. That's how long ago it was. We won't say how long ago it was, but it was a while back. And I called Augusta National, and the receptionist was real nice. I said, yeah, ma'am, I shot 77, my tee time for tomorrow. And they said, oh, Mr. Mayfair, you're up at 10:30 tomorrow with Mr. Palmer.
Oh, wow.
And I kind of sat there and I go, can you repeat that? Yes, you're Mr. Palmer. And I set the phone down and it was just standing there. And my dad said, you okay, Dad? You okay, son? And I said, I got to play with Arnold tomorrow. And it was I didn't sleep much that night. Let's just say that. And Arnold
that's probably a highlight of your career.
Absolutely.
I know for so many players, they talk about, they always remember when they played with Arnold.
Yep. And get to play with him, not just any time, but to get to play with him in the 4th round the second round at the Masters. And he was so gracious. And he grinded on every shot. You couldn't tell if he was shooting 80 or if he was shooting 60. He grinded on every shot. And I think the one thing I remember the most was when we got to 18, I bowed out of the way. I got off to the side so that he could walk up 18 by himself and have the crowd and all that. And he stopped and waved me over, and I walked up there with him. So it's those touching moments that's those touching moments are the things you remember, but that's also what makes the Masters so special, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. It's my favorite major, probably because we're starved for majors for so many months, and then that comes in such a special place, and that's unbelievable. So, and throughout the round, was Arnold like speaking with you much, or is he in his own competitive bubble? Or
he was in his own competitive bubble. We spoke every once in a while and talked and all that. He showed me a few things, how the golf course used to be and all that. But as I said again, he was in his competitive bubble, and he wanted to make the cut, and he was very competitive. That's the thing I remember the most was, here's a guy who didn't have to be competitive. We're going to miss the cut, and he grinded on every single shot. So I learned a lot from that.
Amazing.
Well, now you've been a professional for a few years, Billy. You're 56 years old. You're still, playing strong. Tell us, what's your schedule look like these days? How do you prepare for a tournament? Do you have your schedule set up for the rest of the year, or are you just playing by how you're feeling? Tell us a little bit about your current schedule.
Well, we just started. This is now our 5th event out here on the Champions Tour event, and our first event this year was in Morocco, and that just so happened to be my 900th tour event.
Oh my God!
Right. So wow. That was kind of neat. There's a few guys out here who've got a fewer a few more than me, but I'm going to kick them in the ankles. So, but I love playing out here. I love the competitive juices, and I feel good at 56. And I know I can't spend as many hours on the range hitting balls, but I can still spend a lot of time on that chipping green, on that putting green. And no matter what tour you're on, no matter, how old you are, it still comes down to putting.
It does. It does. And how is your game lately? Is there attributes that you're working to improve, or you're just trying to stay loose and get out there?
Well, I think any player, if you're not winning out there, you got to improve on your putting and your short game and your wedge game. I've been driving the ball very well this year, and my iron play has gotten good, but I still need to hit some wedge shots closer. And then when I do, I need to get those putts in the hole. And I think the biggest thing for that is if you can make a few putts, make a few birdies, now your confidence soars and you're ready to go out there, and anything can happen then. But you miss those putts and you just kind of kicking yourself. And, I think I've shot 71, a bunch of times, which, don't get me wrong, isn't a horrible number by any means. But, you turn that into 67 or 68, and it's a whole nother week.
Yeah. You might have to send Steven Alker a couple bottles of tequila or something earlier in the week, get him hung over for the first day.
Like that. Boy, here's a young man who's played very well, and he's stayed very consistent. I'm glad to see it. Yeah,
well, it's fun to see someone really have that much success into the Champions Tour, right? Because Raf and I are both 49, and it's the dream to try to get out there and qualify, and just to see someone who's been a journeyman, but then to just catch absolute fire so late in their career is unbelievable to watch as a golf fan.
Well, absolutely, and he's a good guy, and we're glad he's out here. But he is a perfect example. He hits it very well. But for the past 2 years, he's made the putts when he needed to, and you go back to look at all the records. And I've been out here now for just about 40 years, and I'm still convinced that the guy who putts the best usually wins on Sunday.
Yeah, no, definitely.
I love to see, because like Mike said, we grew up watching you guys, looking up to you guys and playing. It's the reason why we played, watching you guys every weekend. And now you've got, Duval coming on the tour. You've got Leonard coming on, Harrington. Obviously, Stricker's been playing well too, and Couples still bounces back and forth. Al's just recently played at the Heritage.
At the Heritage,
really neat to see.
Yeah.
Yep.
So. Man, I could just go down a list. Like, everybody knows every single one of these players, right? It's really great.
Well,
I don't know what other sport you could just keep on playing, right?
Well, there's a blessing in that too. Obviously, retirement wouldn't do good for all of us, and I think it's probably saved a lot of guys' lives by being able to play after 50. We still stay competitive. We still work out. We're still ready to go. And if we didn't have that, it could be really tough. But because of social media and everyone and being hard, I think a lot of people recognize us out here. I think people want to watch us because, like I said, they recognize us. They watched us kind of grow and all that. And that's what makes the Champions Tour very strong.
The field in the Champions Tour is deeper than it's ever been. I would think with and every year there's 4, 5, 6 more guys coming on there, and we're getting closer to the big cat turning 50, who's probably going to be out there too. I anticipate that he's going to push purses up, and viewership's going to increase. And but already as it is, I enjoy watching it because it's like Raf said, it's all of you guys who we've been watching for decades. It's fantastic. Like, we kind of
laugh. I would be surprised if Tiger had a list above his bedpost with Bernard and Longer's records and Hale Irwin's records behind him.
You never know.
You never know. Like I said, you never can say no to that young man, and you never know what he's going to come out with. And I hope he does come out here. It would be wonderful, one, to see him, to play against him again. And, ESPN would have to start off their telecast talking about the Champions Tour even before the PGA Tour. Boom, wouldn't that be a big surprise?
That would be cool.
Oh yeah.
Well, the purses would go up too.
Purses would go up, TV time would go up, and we just made a rule out here on the Champions Tour that now you can take a cart other than the majors. You can take a cart, and there was a reason why we passed that rule. If you don't, there was a reason, because we know that he's going to need a cart. Yeah. So we're going to help him every way we can to get him out here.
Yeah, no, I like it. It's he moves the needle every time he plays, even at the Masters. we all felt for him. Cold weather, undulating course like Augusta National, tough as hell to walk around there with a leg in the state of his. And he did it.
I don't know how he does it. I mean, as I
Yeah.
said, I mean, someone asked me how severe. I mean, from the 10th tee box at Augusta National to the 12th green, it's 14 stories.
Wow.
It's a 14-story difference. So that means he's walking up and down 14 stories a couple times a day, and then you have to stop and start and all that weather.
Yeah.
It had to be very painful. First of all, you knew it had to be painful for him to withdraw, because he would never do that. But I know that's his favorite of all the tournaments, and it's probably the hardest one now on his leg.
Definitely. And I had a bit of relief when he did withdraw, because I know how uncomfortable he must have been through all of that. And, the last thing I'd like to see is him, throwing a wrench into his recovery and, maybe not being able to play later this year.
I was holding my breath seeing him on 18, hitting that bunker shot where he had one leg out, one leg in, and then he jumped out and he started hopping on his left leg. I think that was a close call.
Well, I mean, there's another point of his competitiveness. He could have very easily just pitched it out. He could have just chipped it out of the bunker. He's not going to do that. He's going to go full bore and go after it. And that's just the competitiveness in Tiger. And he's always going to have it. You can have a bum leg and all that stuff, but you can't take the fire out of him, and you never will be.
No, it's amazing to watch.
Billy, back to you. And I'd like to talk about something that means a lot to you. In the last little while, you've been an advocate of autism, and many people didn't know that. Some people call it high functioning autism. Maybe tell us a little bit about that so we could learn about what that entails and how people could get involved.
Okay. It kind of got started by my wife. God bless her. She was around me all the time, and she kind of noticed some things, and some of the things that I have a hard time with is eye contact, facial expressions, and I would always I'd have a hard time sometimes looking at people. Even right now, I'm working real hard to be sure I look at the camera and look at you guys and all that stuff. And my wife kind of noticed it, and we had an incident, unfortunately, a couple of years ago in LA, where I was disqualified because of a ruling. It doesn't matter how, that's not important now, how it all happened and all that. But she knew that after that point that I needed to probably get tested for autism to see if I had it and what I could do to help, because now it's affecting my playing ability and my career. And I got tested, and just so you know, guys, I fought tooth and nail on it. There's nothing wrong with me. Everyone else is wrong, so, but I finally got in and got tested, and it probably took a few months for me to finally read the diagnosis. And when I did, as I said, again, facial expressions, eye contact, people, not understanding always when someone's joking with me, that type of deal. I was diagnosed with high functioning autism, and those are just some of the symptoms that you get. However, with high functioning autism and with a lot of autism, I think it's helped me with golf. It means that I can hyper focus very well. I love going to the golf course by myself. I love being out there in the golf course by myself, and that's why I loved golf so much growing up, and not other sports as much. I always loved being out there, being an individual sport. And I guess the biggest thing with the diagnosis that it opened up the window to me, and it opened to realize, hey, this is why I had a hard time in school sometimes. Under some teachers I got along with great, others I didn't, and why some people look at me funny and all that. I don't mean anything negative or mean by it. Sometimes I just came across wrong. So my wife and I, fortunately for me, with COVID and shutting everything down, allowed me to stay home a little bit, work with some psychologists at home. And like I said, we've been working hard on it, but it's still it's a day-to-day struggle, and we get better and better at it. But it's high functioning autism. And my wife and I have made kind of a pact to try to not just help the people with autism, but the parents, the siblings, husbands, wives, that and most importantly, other children in the family that are sometimes abused or misled because of the person who does have autism. So all this is on my website, billymayfair.org. We have a lot of information on autism with doctors. We're trying to get a hotline set up right now, and it's very important for us to get the word out, and not just for the people to get tested, but for the people the siblings, the spouses, the grandparents, to understand more about it, to help the person and the other people in the family too.
Excellent. Thanks for sharing. It's not easy to talk about, so I'm fantastic that you're able to share it. And if it's able even to help out one person, make sure you go down to BillyMayfair.org.
Yes.
And get some information on that. Billy, one of the things go ahead.
Sorry, Raf, we're going to post these links in the YouTube channel as well on our podcast description, so anyone can find your website there, Billy.
Okay.
All right.
Wonderful. Thank you. It's a blessing when you come out there and you see some kids that have autism, and they come out and watch you play, and they cheer for you, and then you talk to them after a round, and how you say you talk to them on their level and not down at them. That's better than shooting 65 sometimes, guys. So.
Wow, amazing.
We're going to slowly start wrapping things up, but we want our audience to get to know you a little bit. What would be your ultimate foursome? We're going to exclude family, because everybody always throws in family members, but dead or alive, who would you want to play with? What kind of music do you like? What kind of music do you listen to? Those are two questions for you.
Okay, well, I love 80s music. Bohemian Rhapsody was one of my favorite movies. I like songs that have a beat. We Are the Champions and that type of deal. So that's kind of more of an 80s tune for me and all that.
Yeah.
And the perfect foursome. I mean, I've been so blessed to play with presidents and Arnold and Jack and all that. It's pretty hard, but I'd like to play with God one day. Have him come down and see see his game. I mean, he's got the greatest sense of humor in the world, and I feel at times. So why not play some golf?
You can show him how to hit a 1-iron.
That's right. So only he can do that. Yeah, him and Jack.
Yeah. Is there any funny stories? It's one segment of the show we love, is to hear any comical moments throughout players like yours career and whatnot. So anything that comes to mind, any could be anything, even behind the scenes or on the course.
We always talk, so we'll give you a second to think about it. We like to do funny or embarrassing stories. So the first thing that pops into your mind when we talk about funny or embarrassing golf stories on or off the golf course.
Oh my! Hey, I kind of drew a blank here for a minute here, guys. You caught me off guard a little bit.
Well, sometimes we've had people talk about hitting somebody off on target, or just hitting somebody, like a spectator who's watching, or something happening in the locker room. Maybe. Well, we could circle back.
We've had some interesting things happen in the locker room, but I probably ought to keep those kind of private.
You won't be allowed back into the locker room if you share that.
Yeah, and I think that is, like I said, I think the Champions Tour locker room is like it was on our tour. In the big tour is probably a little bit different than those young guys now, and it's a lot more serious out there for them all. But I remember one of the guys, Larry Mize, and I. He was the defending champion for the Masters, and I was the U.S. Amateur champion. So we got to pair together, and Arias was a big shirt company at the time, and we showed up on Thursday with the same shirt on. And fortunately, because he got them for free and I did, he was able to change shirts. But, what are the chances that I want to wear the same shirt as he did? So, a lot of funny things can happen out here. Spectators are always on our mind, but we really enjoy the spectators that love the game of golf and aren't out here to just drink and party. So.
Yeah, that reminds me of this story when Rocco and Tiger showed up in 2007, both wearing red. Obviously, Tiger's going to wear red on Sunday. Rocco wore red as well.
I wore a red sweater one time on Sunday, and I got harassed for that. So nobody wears red on Sunday but Tiger. So.
Yeah, amazing.
And for everybody listening, if you're in Irving, Texas, go see the boys down over at Las Colinas Country Club. Go see Billy play. And, thanks for coming on. Mike, you want to wrap this up with a few things?
Yeah, again, thanks for everyone who's watching and listening. Please give us a share, a like, a subscribe. As of tomorrow, this will be available on all the major podcast platforms, so you can catch it there. Thanks again for everyone coming on. And Billy, I really appreciate you spending some time with us. And we'll let you get back out to Tony Romo and some golf. They're probably a lot more interesting than we are. So
No, you
thank
probably, you guys have probably saved me a whole bunch of money, so that's probably just as well. You know? But no, guys, thank you, and thank you for what you guys do for golf and having this, and I know all the viewers really enjoy having you out there.
Thank you so much,
I
Billy.
appreciate it. You have a great week. You have a great
All right.
week. All right,
Thank
for
you, guys.
Mike Bleakley and Billy Mayfair, I'm Raphael Calamat. You've been listening to the Golf Podcast Live. See you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody.